corruption, abuse, resignations, multiple investigations, and at least $150 million tax dollars illegally given out by Liberal insiders to other Liberal insiders and to themselves. That's Sustainable Development Technologies Canada after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government and that Prime Minister that's just not worth the cost. The Auditor General is set to release a damning report on SDTC tomorrow. So will the Prime Minister shut down the billion-dollar slush fund? Will he commit to get Canadians their money back? And will he guarantee Canadians that none of these corrupt executives will get $1 of severance?
Not $1.
Here, here. I didn't know the Auditor General was releasing a report tomorrow.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. In fact, as you well know, Mr. Speaker, from the moment we received allegation, we started an investigation, Mr. Speaker, in order to make sure that we would uncover the truth and we would restore governance. We suspended funding of the organization. We now got a report. The chairwoman resigned. The CEO of the organization resigned, Mr. Speaker. We welcome the findings of the Auditor General. We proactively work with the Auditor General. And one thing I can reassure all Canadians, we will restore governance, restore funding for this organization that is helping thousands of Canadians, companies in this country.
L'honorable député de Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the member for Saint-Laurent who denied the decline of French in Quebec, a Franco-Ontarian MP who called witnesses at the Languages Committee what we all heard on Parleview. Now it's a turn for the Quebec MP for Alfred Pélin to say in committee that Quebec should be bilingual to be stronger. The true face of the Quebec Liberal caucus has just been unmasked. They have no will or intention of stopping the decline of French and protecting it. Will the Prime Minister act now for French in Quebec and bring his MPs to order? The Honourable Minister for Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Someone pinch me, I must be dreaming, when I hear my colleagues across the way talk about French. The Conservative Party and the Francophones of Quebec in that party accused me here in the House of speaking French and too often speaking in French. And now they're all up in arms about the complete opposite? Mr. Speaker, we need to try and figure out where they're going because they seem to be going in all sorts of directions.
À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît.
Order.
The honourable member from Richmond Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as we entered into June and summer is just around the corner, the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre has already reported that over 300,000 hectares of forest have been burned down. Climate change continues to impact communities in my province of British Columbia and across Canada at a disproportionate.
Colleagues, I'm having great trouble hearing from both sides on hearing the question from the honourable member from Richmond Centre. For those who would like to have their
For those who would like to have their conversations, I would encourage you to have them behind the curtains or in the antechambers. Until then, the honourable member for Richmond Centre.
I'll invite him to start from the top, please. The honourable member from Richmond Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we entered into June and summer is just around the corner, the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre has already reported that over 300,000 hectares of forest have been burned down. Climate change continues to impact communities in my province of British Columbia and across Canada at a disproportionate rate. Drought and warmer than normal temperature are persisting, fueling the severity of wildfires and posing significant risks of our communities. Can the Minister of Emergency Preparedness share with Canadians what work our federal government is doing to help community to be better prepared?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, extreme weather events is increasing the frequency and severity of natural disasters, but often I hear my colleagues across the floor downplay or even deny the reality of climate change and its effect on Canadians. They would rather claim that wildfires are caused by arson. Mr. Speaker, last year 59% of Canada's wildfires were the result of lightning strikes. We owe it to the Canadians impacted and the thousands who were already displaced this year to acknowledge the reality of climate change. Our government has invested more than $10 billion to help communities better prepare and adapt to climate change, and we are proudly continuing our work to limit our emissions. Thank you.
The honourable member from Timmins, James Bay.
Corporations shouldn't be allowed to lie about the threats that are posed by their products. That's a no-brainer, unless, of course, we're talking about big oil. So last week, a front group for the oil and gas industry was found guilty of running a massive disinformation campaign on the supposed benefits of burning even more fossil fuels. The planet is on fire. People are getting sick, and yet this Liberal government have never taken on the lies and greenwashing of big oil. So to the Minister of Environment, what's it going to take to end this massively funded disinformation campaign by the fossil fuel industry?
The Honourable Minister for Industry.
Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague. We obviously expect the highest level of governance from corporations that are operating in Canada. But, Mr. Speaker, that gives me also the opportunity to remind Canadians of the investment we've seen in green supply chain in this country, Mr. Speaker. As we said before, this country has received a record number of investment in the green industry, Mr. Speaker. Even Bloomberg ranked Canada first in the world for the battery ecosystem, Mr. Speaker, ahead of China. We should all be proud of these investments, which are generational. They're creating jobs, they're creating prosperity, and they're putting Canada ahead of every nation when it comes to building EV in the world.
That's right.